Since we retired 3 years ago, we've been fortunate to sail across the Atlantic on the Oceania Marina.
Sail from Singapore to Sydney on the Oceania Regatta.
And then we got to recross the Atlantic on the Oceania Vista.
Hi, I'm Jan.
And I'm Tracy, and this is our review of the latest Oceania cruise that we've taken on the Sirena, and it went through the Western Caribbean.
Now, we believe that cruising is a personal experience, and we also understand that two people, even on the very same cruise, can have different perspectives. So these are just our observations and thoughts on this one cruise.
So we're going to be looking at specific categories, and then we're going to give you the top 3 things that we loved about this Oceania Sirena cruise, and the 3 things that we thought that Oceania could have done a little bit better.
And the end, what we're going to do is we're going to tell you who we think this cruise might be perfect for. Now, the categories we're going to be looking at are the ship, the cabin, the service, the food, and how we had entertainment and relaxation on the Oceania Sirena.
So let's start with the general impressions of the ship.
Now, remember, though, we've already given you a tour of the ship. You should be able to find the link right above me where you can go and see our ship tour.
The Oceania Sirena is an R-class ship, and it has only 670 passengers, and it's similar to the ship that we took, the Oceania Regatta. Now, usually sister ships have the same footprint, and this footprint is pretty close to what you see on the Regatta, although the Sirena really has some really cool improvements that we're going to discuss later.
Yeah, especially in the food, but that comes up in a moment. What really got us was that the Sirena is actually a ship over 25 years old, yet the public spaces and lounges are nicely decorated without feeling dated at all. Additionally, we didn't notice the rust and the wear and tear that we saw on the Oceania Regatta on our sailing the year prior, and this really is a well-maintained ship.
And while we were sailing, it was close to the holidays, so it was a pretty full ship. Although that was a full ship, we really never felt crowded. Some places did get a little bit busy, especially the buffet on embarkation day, and as always, a martini bar during their pre-dinner and post-show happy hours.
Another thing we did notice was the smell of cigarette smoke in some of the passenger hallways and then around the casino, especially on deck 3.
Now, our room was located on deck 3, and we were right below the casino, and that might be the reason that the cigarette smell seemed to linger there.
Now, speaking of smaller spaces, the cabin we selected was an ocean view room with a small porthole window.
And Jan's not kidding. It comes in at only 165 square feet. Despite that, though, the layout and the decor of the cabin is really, really nice.
And it really didn't feel small once you got situated in the room. There was plenty of storage space. There was a nice love seat, a decent-sized table for things such as room service, and the queen-size bed was really, really comfortable.
And it really didn't feel cramped until you got in the bathroom. And just like all Oceania R-class ships, the bathrooms are really, really small. We were pretty sure that this is smaller than our RV motorhome bathroom.
Yeah, now if you're looking for a bigger shower, be prepared to book a penthouse suite because the shower is the same size in pretty much all the rooms up to that. That includes not only our porthole window room, but also your balconies and even your concierge balconies all have the same type of shower.
But the one really great thing that we had with our room was our room steward. He was fantastic, and it was really nice to be back on a cruise ship that had twice a day cleanings. And speaking of service, it's what you'd expect on an Oceania cruise. It was very, very attentive, although there were a couple of hiccups along the way.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, the bar staff, especially in Horizons, was helpful. It was easy to get drinks anytime you wanted, and getting Tracy her coffee in the morning in baristas was always an easy errand. By the way, you needed specialty coffees you would get on the board. Were all complimentary, which is nice. However, the service in Martinis, which is one of the bars, tended to be a bit slow, especially during happy hour when it was pretty packed.
And another area that we knew that we were on an Oceania ship was the food. It is really, really good.
And we're really excited to see what they had done with the specialty dining. This really comes down to the layout, the ship layout things that Tracy was talking about. If you've been on any of the other Oceania R-class ships, such as the Insignia or the Regatta, usually on the starboard side, you have the Polo Grill, which is the steakhouse. And then on the port side, you have Toscana, which is the Italian restaurant. Both of these have really always been very, really good. On the Sirena, however, they've taken what we think is the best menu items of both of these restaurants and combined them into one restaurant, which they call Tuscan Steak. We think it's a brilliant move, and the food was absolutely exceptional.
And what's even better is because they had already combined the 2 restaurants into Toscana Grill, that gave them free space to open up one of our personal favorites on any Oceania larger ship, the Red Ginger. This is an Asian fusion restaurant that they replaced with the, having to go from the Toscana and the Polo Grill. We got to eat there twice, and as always, the food was exceptional.
Now, unfortunately, while the food in these two restaurants were stunningly delicious, the service did tend to be slow, which really kind of confused us because we had late seatings in both of those when it really wasn't very full. So we don't know why the service lagged, which is really not typical of what we usually get on Oceania.
And the wait staff in the grand dining room, which is Sirena's main dining room, was better, although we kind of felt it was perfunctory, maybe a little bit impersonal. And that's not what we usually enjoy on an Oceania ship.
However, fortunately, the menu selection in the grand dining room was actually fairly broad, lots of things to be able to choose from. And once again, the food just delivers exactly how you would think of for a cruise line that boasted they have the best cuisine at sea. Now, in the Terrace Cafe, which is their buffet, the food here once again was good, with a good selection that even includes sushi available every evening, and which is exactly what we expect on an Oceania ship.
However, we were on the very first sailing on an Oceania R-Class ship where they moved to self-service buffet. In the past, Oceania would serve you at the buffet, but this was the first time that the passengers got to serve themselves. And we asked them why they did this, and they said that this move was to allow more staff to work in the dining rooms and help with drink service and clearing tables instead of serving. And we're not really sure that was the greatest thing.
Yeah, no, originally we had heard that Oceania was planning to do this, and we really didn't think much of it. We didn't think it would be an issue. However, now that we've seen the difference on Oceania before and after, we realize that, quite frankly, collectively as guests, that includes you, we're actually really messy because we never remembered Oceania's buffet being this messy with food on the serving areas, food on the floor, and it just seemed to cheapen that small luxury ship appeal of Oceania.
And so in addition to the overall food experience, we also thought that the entertainment on the ship was really good, and that starts with one of the best cruise directors we've ever had.
Yeah, now we have friends who have sailed Oceania for years, and they've always told us about their favorite cruise director, Dottie, and we finally had the opportunity to find out why. She and her husband, Tom, who is also the comedian on board, were incredibly kind and approachable. In fact, I had the opportunity to eat dinner with them as part of a larger group, and they could not have been more gracious. Now, unfortunately, I believe Dottie is in her last contract before retiring at Oceania, so she's going to be missed from the Oceania fleet.
So what was very consistent with this Oceania sailing was the daily trivia and the games for Big O points. And if you haven't sailed Oceania before, most of the activities on board will earn you these things called Big O points that you can use to trade in for prizes like the shirt that Jan's wearing.
Now, it really is a neat way to not only have fun during sea days, but also meet your fellow travelers on the ship. And the prizes you can earn from Big O points really are quite high quality and things that you actually use.
But the traditional entertainment was also really good. And even on a small ship like this, you know that you're not going to get the big production shows that the mass market lines are going to give you. But the singers and dancers we thought were really, really good on this sailing.
We also enjoyed the string quartet, which would sometimes play in the evenings in the theater. And they were always in the Horizons, setting the perfect mood for tea in the afternoons.
And we also enjoyed the 2 nights of comedy that Tom provided during to us in the theater.
Now, when we were not playing trivia, earning Big O points, or watching a show, you could find us by the pool, which is something you will almost never find us doing on a larger ship.
So there is one small pool and 2 jacuzzis, but we felt that that was more than enough for the number of passengers that we had on board. We never felt crowded, even taking a dip or finding available loungers around the pool deck. And we also thought that the pool loungers were very, very cushioned and nice and comfortable.
Now, if you're in the concierge or a better cabin, or you can pay a fee, you have access to what they call the Aquamar Spa Terrace. This really seems like a nice place to relax, which you're away from each other, and they have your own hydrotherapy pool, which is nice. Now, we have enjoyed this on other Oceania cruises, but in our porthole room, we didn't quite rate this time, and we didn't pay the extra for the porthole room, but we've done it before. It's really, really nice.
And Oceania also offers free fitness classes like yoga and stretching. The one thing that I will note is it always gets really crowded in there, and it's not a lot of space, and so it is a first come, first serve. Maybe 6 to 8 people, maybe 10 people can join, and the list is always longer than the people that are there.
Yeah. Now, although we're not gamblers, we were surprised by the casino, which on other Oceania cruises we've done always seems to be underutilized. However, on this Caribbean cruise, it really seemed busy every evening and every day on the sea days. So those are our views of the ship, the room, the service, the food, and entertainment.
So what are the 3 things that we liked most, and what are the 3 things that we think that Oceania could have done better?
And we're going to start with those 3 downs. And the first one we'll start with is that self-serve buffet. And like we said, it just seemed like it really wasn't at the level of what we would thought for Oceania, and really cheapens that small luxury cruise experience.
And the other thing that we'll note is the cigarette smoke really did permeate into the passenger areas, especially on the places that we were staying between decks 3 and 4.
And the third is although the food in both Tuscan steak and red ginger were absolutely fantastic, the service was way slower than we'd ever seen on Oceania before, and it really put a drag on that opportunity and experience.
But there's so many great things about this cruise that we want to tell you about. And our first up was the ship size. We really, really love the R-Class ships. It really gives you that true intimate sailing experience.
Yeah, and of course the food. Yeah, the service was slow, but I will tell you that the 2 specialty restaurants and quite frankly the grand dining room, the food was absolutely fantastic.
And the third thing is the value. For the cruise that we got, the price that we got for the room that we had with all the benefits, it was incredibly economical.
Yeah, and the value is what really puts an interesting spin on the conversation is who we think this cruise is best for. Certainly if you're already a fan of small ship luxury, Oceania delivers that quiet, elegant vacation experience with exceptional food that you're likely looking for. However, we really think that if you're someone that usually is on a mass market line or you're on a premium line, but you don't necessarily need the large production shows, the water slides, or especially the 300 children running around the ship, or maybe perhaps you're one of those people that enjoys the ship in the ship area, such as the Haven or the Yacht Club, this might be a perfect cruise option for you.
You might be surprised at the cost. Although we did sacrifice not having a balcony on our 7-day cruise in the Sirena, it was nearly the same price that we had paid for the exact same itinerary on the week following on a mass market big ship.
So that's our review of the Oceania Sirena. Watch this video to be able to see when we think it's the best time for you to go into the Caribbean and sail or anywhere else in the world. And as always, keep on traveling.